Welcome to a brand new edition of Stephen Carey's Holistic Buffet. Really interesting topic we're going to be talking about today, which is Neuro Linguistic Programming, or NLP, as it's also known. Carey, have you had any experience of NLP before?
I've had absolutely no experience at all. When you said that you had a friend you were going to bring on to discuss NLP, I had to Google what it meant. I didn't even know what it stood for.
So today we've got an expert in NLP. He's a friend of mine, Elizabeth Pritchard, who I've known for 30 odd years. She's an NLP practitioner, and she's just going to take us through some of the sort of principles and maybe an exercise or two just around what NLP is and what it can do for us. Thanks so much, Elizabeth, for joining us. We've been friends for, I was thinking the other day, probably about 31, 32 years, definitely over 30 years.
Ish, that, yeah, it is. It is about that, yeah, it's really long time.
Yeah, it makes me feel very old. But anyway, it's a delight to have you on. I wanted to bring you on because NLP is a subject that I've been involved with, not from a sort of traditional practitioner perspective, but certainly I've been around the sort of periphery of it. I studied a master's degree a number of years ago, and one of the models that we used as one of the guiding principles was NLP. And I find it absolutely really enthralling and very accessible, I think, for people as a therapeutic model and a way of sort of a lens by which we can understand ourselves and understand the world and our interactions with people. Could you tell us just a little bit of background about your experience with NLP and maybe a little bit of the history of what NLP is?
Yes. Well, I'm interested in NLP really because it's so practical. So when you talk about that, how useful it is, that is exactly what I feel about it. Mm-hmm. So when I first came across NLP was in 1984 in a business context. In fact, in the business that we both worked in. Yeah. So it was seen at that time by the people who owned the business as a really practical thing that we could use in business. So that's been interesting for me because I came at it right at the very start, very much from a business context rather than a therapeutic context. Yeah. But what I do now is train people to be NLP practitioners, and a lot of those people that I train are using it therapeutically. Yeah. And I use it more therapeutically now as well with my clients on a one-to-one basis. So that's the sort of background of how I came into it. Yeah. And why I chose it, why I wanted to study this and to really make this my main area of study over the last 20 years kind of thing, is because it's immensely practical. And if you work with somebody using NLP and it works, you know it works. Yeah. And if it doesn't work, you know it doesn't work. And you know that there's something that you can do differently or something else that you need to do. So it's immensely practical. Should I talk a bit about where I think NLP came from? Should I just talk like that? Yeah. So really, I think what's interesting about NLP is it came from America, Santa Cruz, 1970s, Bandler, Grinder and Pucelik, all at the University of Santa Cruz. And I think what's most important about that is that's not now, that's not 2021, that's the 1970s. And I think the thing about the 70s was, especially in America, as I understand it, was that people were starting to get this idea that they could create their own lives through what they did. And I think that's really different from now, because now self-help is something, you can buy a self-help book at any airport, any rail station, in fact, that's lots of them, any of those places. But at that time, it was an unusual idea, that people could actually improve themselves. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And you were also mentioning earlier this idea about how sometimes NLP has been misused, perhaps in sales. I think particularly it's sometimes got a bad reputation in sales. And I think it sort of comes from the same root, because that was also the time of I could become a salesman and I could better myself and my whole family through my skills as a salesman, which is, of course, a really honourable pursuit, as I see it. But I think that's where sometimes those NLP skills started to get a bit like, I can manipulate people perhaps into buying things from me by using these very powerful skills. So that's sort of how I see it. So for me, it comes from a really good place of kind of hope and possibility.
Yeah, I think so as well.
For people, really.
Yeah, and I think if we think of the actual term NLP, it stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. So could you talk to us a little bit about the sort of the background of what that actually means, or why those words?
Yeah, why those words is really the principle is in the words Neuro Linguistic Programming. It's a bit like I program my brain through the words that I use. So if I sit here and say, I am useless and I can't do this and I can't do that, and give me a list, I'll tell you all the things I can't do and all my problems, it's just going to bring me down and down and down. It's not that those things are untrue, but if I'm looking through that kind of a lens, it's not good for me. It's the best way I could think of saying it. So by the concept of neuro-linguistic programming is that we are programming ourselves by the things that we say about ourselves.
Yeah.
So if I can believe and say that something is possible for me in a genuine way, then that's a good place to start. But, you know, it's interesting what you say about the manipulative side, because you could also, what you also get with that sometimes is that kind of, it's possible for me, push, but I don't really believe it.
Yeah.
And you know, and that goes towards the negative side.
Yeah. And you know, it's we just did an episode a couple of weeks ago about personal responsibility, about being able to be responsible for your life. And I think that's kind of one of the key tenets of NLP, which is if I've got some programming in my mind that says I'm not good, I'm terrible, I'm awful, you will get more of what you focus on. So you will operate from that stance. If I tell myself I'm awful, I'm bad, and I'm wrong, I will operate and come from that place. But if I tell myself, maybe I can tell myself something differently, or I can say something different and come from that place too. And it's almost like it's almost like a switch. You just switch that and say, I am good at this. I can do this, because that's infinitely possible. And that's about taking responsibility for your life. Maybe you could do a couple of exercises. Let's go.
Okay. So this is the first exercise that I would use to illustrate what is NLP to somebody who's never done it before. So that's handy, isn't it? This might be useful with you. And it's called problem frame versus outcome frame. And the idea of it is that if we look at something as a problem, then what is the effect of that? Whereas if we look at the same situation in terms of what we want, what is the effect of that? Does that make sense? We're comparing.
Yes.
I look at, it's the same situation, but I could look at it as a problem, or I could look at it in terms of what do I want to happen here. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, it
sure
does.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. And it's as a result of this exercise, I'm not expecting you to get a whole plan for what to do about something. I'm just expecting you to move beyond the problem into feeling motivated in a certain direction. So to feel like taking action on something that perhaps you haven't taken action on previously. Does that make sense? Yes, it does.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes. Well, the idea is that you start with a problem, a small problem, something that you perceive at the moment as a small problem to you. And because it's quite a small problem, maybe it's something that you haven't done anything about for ages. We're talking, it's just to keep it a bit light to get started. And we're thinking about something like your desk is a mess and you can't find the papers on your desk, or something like that. Something like can't get my teenager to tidy her bedroom. That was a recent one that I had.
That's a good one.
So it's a problem, but it's one of those kind of persistent type problems that, you know, you gave attention to for a bit and perhaps you got fed up with it and then you come back to it again. That sort of a problem. Have you got that sort of a problem?
I have lots of those.
Good.
I just want to, I want to pick a good one. I've got it. I've got it. Okay.
So good. What is your problem?
My problem is that I don't do well working at home, which I've been doing for the last, year and a half because of COVID. And when I'm at home, I would much rather clean, tidy, and organize than do work. And I feel at times unproductive because I don't focus on the work as much as I think I would if I weren't here.
Yeah, clear. Excellent. Thank you. And how long have you had this problem? Has it been particularly during COVID, or was it a problem before that?
Just particularly during COVID.
Okay. So is there anybody to blame here, would you say? Is it anybody's fault?
It's my fault.
It's your fault. Well, that's what people who take a lot of responsibility usually say. But are there any people who have any kind of influences on it?
No, I think it's really just my fault.
You think it's you. You think it's really you. Okay. And what's your worst experience with this problem?
I would say my worst experience with this problem was focusing on too many things around the house and not creating a separate space for me to prepare for a meeting, a sales meeting.
So this was a particular sales meeting, yeah?
It was a particular sales meeting.
Yeah, good.
And so I realized that as I was lying in bed at night and I had this sales call very early the next morning, that I wasn't prepared in the way that I wanted to feel prepared. And I ended up awake all night long, sweating, anxious, sure that I was going to bomb the call. It was a very uncomfortable night. And I woke up feeling very tired and very stressed. And I spent as much time as I could in the morning trying to prepare, but my brain wasn't working very well. I was very much in an anxious state. And my inner voices were saying, you're irresponsible. You didn't prepare. You always get sidetracked. And it just wasn't a good experience.
Okay. That sounds really awful, really appropriately awful. Yeah. Okay. And so given that, and particularly how awful that was, why would you say that you haven't solved it yet?
It's really good. I haven't solved it yet because I'm focusing on what's not happening instead of trying to figure out what I can do to make it happen differently.
Yeah.
There's a lot of repetition. It's the voice in my head that tries to keep me honest, which berates me and makes me feel so uncomfortable and like such a loser that I just want to move on and focus on something different than have to sit with that inner voice telling me that I'm being irresponsible and I'm not good at it and I'll never be good at it. There's too much to learn. You should just quit. Plus, you don't even like what you're doing anyway. And so when the voice comes up, I just try to do something different.
I understand. Okay. Thank you for giving me all that information. What I'm going to suggest now is something that we call in NLP Break State. Now, what that means is, do you understand what that means? Break State? I don't. No. Okay. What it means is that was horrible to hear, horrible for you to experience. So I want you to be able to shake it off. So we don't have to watch you shake it off. You see what I mean? But if we were together now, we could shake it off together like this. So I'm going to suggest that you stand up, move, shake about, And then you come back to look at, oh, lovely. Yeah, great. Just shake it off like that. It's lovely. And Steve's doing it as well. That's great. Shake it right off. Turn right round. So that you turn your back and then turn back again. Really sort of get rid of that. That was horrible. Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah,
great.
It was really bad. And
great.
When I was telling you the story, it came back. All the feelings came back. All of my body responded in the same way. I'm sweating.
I could see that, but don't go back into it now. That's all right. Yeah, we've seen that. We've seen that, and we've shaken that off. Yeah. Now we're going to take a different approach, an outcome-focused approach to the same situation, where I'm not going to ask you things like that now. I'm going to ask you different things that I'm hoping will leave you, when I've asked you these 6 questions, I'm hoping that will leave you feeling like you want to do something about this. We don't want all that horribleness back now.
Okay.
Is it all gone? Is it all shaken off enough? Do you need to shake any more?
I'm going to take a few deep breaths.
Yeah. Whatever works for you. Do you know what I mean? Like deep breaths.
I feel like I still have some of it.
Oh, no, we can't. No, we want it all gone.
Okay.
Is that okay?
It's on the floor in a big puddle.
Great. Lovely. Are you happy with it being on the floor in a big puddle? Do you want to get rid of it to some other part of the room, or is it all right?
I'll just kick it away.
Yeah, that'd be good.
There.
That would be great.
Now it's not near me anymore.
Okay, that's great. Okay.
It was a horrible night. Horrible. Yes. We're not going back there.
No, we're not. We're not going back there. If we were in a live situation now, I would ask you to sit in a different chair and move away from it completely. But I don't think that's going to work very well in terms of what we're doing here. What I do want to do is to make sure that you've really got rid of that.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes. I have. Yes.
Puddle further away or not?
It's further away, but I worry because I know it's going to come back at some point. That's how I feel. That it's going to come back.
So what could we do right now so that you could just forget about it while we move on to something else that's going to help you?
Well, it's by the front door. So why don't I just go put it outside?
Yeah, lovely.
Be right back.
Okay. Right.
It's out front.
Good idea. Okay.
Now I feel better. I think I had to do that physically.
Yeah, good idea. Okay. So continuing to talk about the same situation, I just want to ask you, what do you want? What would you ideally like to have happen about this?
Yeah. I don't want to do this job anymore. I don't like it.
Right.
I don't like sales. I don't like that I spend 80% of my time trying to sell something and 20% of my time maybe working with clients. I just don't like it.
Yeah. Okay. So when you say you don't like it, what would you like to be doing? So I've said, what do you want? And I understand you don't want to do this job. You don't like sales, but
right.
what would be good for you?
What would be good for me is if I could build a career doing something that I feel passionate about, something that I care about, something that makes me feel like I am helping people, and something that I'm interested in. Lovely, helping people and interest. I'm writing some of these words down that you've said so that I can say those back to you, and I can also send these words to you afterwards. Not the words from the problem, but the words from the outcome. Yeah. Okay. So you're saying you're interested in helping people and you want a career that's about caring and passion and involved perhaps with helping people. Yeah. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Now, how will you know when you've got this? That is such a good question. Nothing's coming to mind, but I can tell you that I had I had a moment the other day where I was on LinkedIn, just doing my normal, trying to remember to be on LinkedIn, reading a few articles, trying to like a few things. And I saw this job come across my feed with a company that I work with on a regular basis. And I opened it and I read it, and it was like, I had such a longing and a passion to want to go do that thing.
Nice.
And I felt like, I think what I actually said to myself inside was, if I could get paid for doing that, that would be the perfect job for me.
Okay. Good. Have you kept that? Have you got that?
Yes.
You have got it. Excellent.
The job?
No, I don't mean have you got the job. I mean, have you got that job description or whatever it was that you saw on LinkedIn that you said that about? You kept it.
Yes.
Well, that's excellent, because I
printed it out.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you said that, because there's something that if that doesn't matter, that maybe you won't actually get that one, but that's something. Okay, that's good. So imagining that you do have that sort of job, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What else in your life will improve when you get that sort of job?
When I get that sort of job, I'll feel like I know what my career path is supposed to look like. I feel very unfinished. I feel very unsettled. I will feel like I know a part of my identity a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Right. And in addition to being a mom and being a sister and being a daughter and being a good friend and a responsible, helpful member of my community, I will also know that I'm doing this, that I'm passionate about, and I feel like it will help complete who I am as a person. I'm just not, I'm not there yet. That seems to me like it would help me understand what my life is going to look like.
Yeah, great. I understand that. Okay, thank you. So what resources do you already have which can help you achieve this outcome?
Well, I have an ability to put a resume together, right? That would help articulate where my experience is in relation to what this job description is. Mm-hmm. I do have some connections, I think, that I can find to let people know that I think this job is something that would possibly be a good fit for me. Mm-hmm. I also know that I have the ability to resource so that where I don't have experience, I know ways that I can reach out to people who do have the right experience so that I could be really good at this job.
Okay. And can you tell me some more about the sort of personal qualities that you have that you would be able to draw on to help you achieve this?
Right.
About you inside, what else would help?
I have leadership qualities that would help. I believe that I am a strong communicator, and I think that would help me get the job, you mean?
Help you get the outcome that you want, which is to have that kind of a job that shows you some way towards your career that you would want, where you're helping people, where you're interested in it and you feel passionate. Something that would take you there, which is the place that you're saying that you want to go to.
Right. So some of those things that I mentioned, I think my leadership would help take me there. The fact that I'm a communicator would help take me there.
Yeah.
The fact that I can be honest about what the journey is going to look like. And I mean that by my practical experience and my honesty and engaging with people and sharing my experiences is part of what would help take me there. I want to, and I can be very brave. I've just shown myself in turning 50 and reinventing my life by getting a divorce, leaving the house that I lived in for 14 years. I am being brave. I could continue to be brave. That would help me as well. I'm not afraid to take a risk.
Excellent. Well, as it happens, the very next question that I was just about to ask you, you sort of touched on it already, because I'll just say it anyway in case something else comes up, because my next question, question number 5, was going to be, what is something similar which you did succeed in doing? But just before I asked you that question, you were saying about the divorce, and you were kind of referring to similar experiences. And this is exactly right, because when I say similar, I don't mean similar in terms of have you previously got a different job. I don't mean that. I mean similar in terms of it took this kind of bravery, leadership ability to engage with people, strong communication, things that took all that, but have previously succeeded. Now, you've already mentioned the whole divorce business, so it could be that. There's no reason why something like that can't also be resourceful to you. It might be that, or it might be something else. I mean, what comes up for you, something similar, where you were able to use all those qualities and resources?
Yeah, there was a project that I did back in the 90s for a company. And it was a broad implementation that asked people to change the way that they did their work. So it was more than just putting in a new system. It was asking people to think differently and change the way that they do their work.
Yeah.
And so that's a big deal. And I led the effort to get that done, and I did it successfully. So I think with this particular position, it's similar, right? It's asking people to look at how they're doing their work differently. It's about giving them tools to see if they can change the way that they're doing their work so that they can be more successful at the work that they're doing.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. So given that and your other experiences of achievement, what would you say is the next step? Be careful that this is a small step. To get this thing that you want, career, passion, helping people, something you're really interested in. Yeah, where you're using your bravery, your honesty, your strong communication skills, similar to a project that you did in the 90s, all that. What's the next step? And keep it small.
I've met the CEO of this company a couple of times, and one of the thoughts that has crossed my mind is to send him an email.
And how do you feel about that?
Well, that idea keeps getting railroaded by the voice in my head that wants to always keep myself honest. Right. So it's, and I know we're not supposed to be going down this path, but I want to help everybody who's watching and listening with this exercise. When you think of that next little step of something that you want to do and you feel divided, one part of me wants to do it, and the other part is saying to me, he won't remember you. He's not going to know, he's not even going to reply. That's crazy. You haven't talked to him in 2 years. And he's going to immediately feel uncomfortable because he's not going to know how to reply.
Okay. Okay. And even given that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I quite like it. I quite like the emailing him. I quite like it. I also quite like the letter.
Mm-hmm.
It's important, more than anything, it's important that it's something that will give you pleasure and that you want to do, which is taking you in the direction of what you want. I'm just going to give you shall I give you a very small example of something somebody else thought of?
Yes,
just in
that
case
would be great.
it might just help you, because it will illustrate to you about the size of the thing. So I did this same exercise. I've done it lots of times with people because it's what I do on the introductory day with NLP, you see. So with this particular young woman, she'd been at home for a long time looking after children, not working, didn't have any kind of diary or any kind of organizational system. And she thought, this was a problem, and she thought she, in inverted commas, should get organized and so on. But none of that is very motivating. None of that is motivating or exciting, because it's all full of shoulds and ought tos and things like that. So what happened when we went through this process, and we began to see the benefits of being organized and how helpful it would be for other people and all of that we come to. When we were on number 6, what's the next step? She said, oh no, I've just remembered. I've got this lime green Filofax under the bed. It's in a drawer under the bed. I haven't looked at it for 5 years, but I really like it. And so this to me was a bit of a aha. It's the lime green Filofax. So I said, okay, when we finish doing this exercise, could you take it out and just have a look at it? And she was, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. So can you hear that if I'd said, perhaps you could write your name in the front of it, she might have been, oh no. It's a bit like I wanted her to be able to do the thing that gave her pleasure, was small, she really wanted to do, and was taking her in the direction that she wanted to go in. Do you see? But to her was a lovely thing.
Yes.
She remembered it, she wanted to do it. Now she could have, the thing with our problems, she could have thought of all sorts of terrible things as well, or I could have suggested things that made it seem too much or something. But where it was, she just liked that idea. So I'm looking for something like that with you. I quite liked the letter, and I also quite liked the email to the CEO. I like both of those ideas.
I think it just came to me. I think there's one thing that needs to happen before that.
Right?
Great. Because I want to be excited when I hit send, right?
Yes.
And I have to be brave to really articulate the letter in the best way.
Yes.
So something that makes me want to make a cup of tea and sit down and just sink into it would be to go through a list of all of the clients that I would be helping and envision how I would help them.
Yeah.
That would make me so freaking excited.
Yeah.
If I could do that for 30 minutes, that would really solidify everything for me. And then I can write the letter.
And the letter is the letter that you're writing to yourself, or the email to the CEO, or?
No, the letter to the CEO.
Letter to the CEO. So pre the CEO letter. So 30 minutes spent, list of clients and what you envisioning them and what you could do for them. Is that right?
Yep.
I like it. Does that interest you? Does that interest you to do that?
Yes.
Yes. That's what I'm looking for. Yes.
Yes.
Are you able to find 30 minutes to do that?
Yes.
Yes. And when might that be, do you think? This is not a commitment. This is not, I said to Elizabeth and I've got to do it. It's just roughly, so I have an idea.
In the next couple of days.
Next couple of days. Okay. So if you manage to get your 30 minutes, get your list of clients and envision what you can do for them, and you do that in the next couple of days, is that good? Is that taking you the way that you want?
Yes.
Right. We're done then. That's it. That's your job.
That was great.
Yeah, well done.
There was a valley of despair in the middle of the exercise for me.
Yeah.
But having you there to kind of lead me over, through the little valley and around the corner to something different was really great. And I do have to say that to me, what you've taught us with NLP so far is, or at least for me, is that there's an issue or a problem, and I keep coming at it from this way. And what you just did is said, we're going to go through this door instead.
Yeah.
We're going to go through it this way.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Do you think you might come on again with us and come and do some more work with us at some point?
I'd love to. Yeah, I'm just getting started on this.
I know.
That was the first exercise on day one.
I know. It's fascinating.
More, yeah. And this is, I mean, there's so much more that we can do. Yeah, that we can do. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Okay, thank you.
So how was that for you?
I loved it. I loved that model, which, we'll share with everybody, obviously, is something that you can take and take a problem or a situation that you're having and walk through it with some immediate results. I found it super helpful, and I will definitely use it again.
I'll have to see.